We are very happy and proud to be presenting this first conversation of our anti-racism in sports conversation series. So we are the Bomovu Association, is the network for sports and body movement for vulnerable groups. And we are organizing this 12-week series together with Oseminars and with Alan Savunması. We are supported by Fairnet Fund's Black Lives Matter, so thank you. And so we decided to do this series on racism because racism takes many different shapes and aspects in daily life as well as broader in the broad system. However, the most, the way that racism as an ideology is implemented and is being the most hurtful is the genocide. This idea of ethnic cleansing. And so we thought it's very meaningful to start our series on a topic that addresses what this racism means when it takes the form of an ideology and when it kills entire people. And inside this horrific idea of genocide and of death, massive killings, here appears sports, where it was not hoped anymore, where there was no light. And here sports brings a face to the survivors, it brings an image, and it brings power. So we are going to hear today the story of Saifullah Muhammad, who is the director of the Rohingya football team. And the conversation will be moderated by Nora Didkowsky, whom I especially want to thank from the deepest of my heart, because this person is the most intelligent and sensitive person I have met. So I wish everyone a good conversation. About the ground rules, we will be having this conversation broadcasted live right now on YouTube. But for the people who are in the Zoom room, if you want to ask questions, you can raise your hand and we can take questions in. But in the moderation of Nora, we will have already a conversation going on. So after this conversation is over, we can get to the questions if there are any. So here, the floor is yours, Nora.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me here. It's my absolute privilege to be sharing a conversation today about racism in sport and combating racism through sport with Saifullah Muhammad, Rohingya activist and genocide survivor. A quick disclosure here that we may be talking about topics that are difficult to hear, including torture and violence. But I just wanted to let people know. So the Rohingya, they've been described as one of the most persecuted minorities in the world. They've been made stateless, banned from political organization, prevented from employment and educational opportunities. And today we'll hear more about how Myanmar's policies have impacted on Rohingya athletes. In September 2018, the Human Rights Council provided overwhelming evidence of genocide and ethnic cleansing in Myanmar against the Rohingya population. Of a total population of around 3 million Rohingya, 2.5 million have been forcibly displaced and they're living in refugee camps or in diaspora. So a quick search on the internet for Rohingya, and I would say even the most will stir emotion in even the most stoic person But one thing that's definitely clear is the strength and the resilience of the Rohingya people. So it is my absolute honor and privilege and pleasure to introduce Saifullah Muhammad, who brings us a story of hope amidst genocide. So Saifullah is a Rohingya youth activist in Canada. He's co-founder of the Canadian Rohingya Development Initiative. And that's an organization that works with governments, especially the Canadian government and civil society groups, to bring an end to the Rohingya genocide and to promote innovative education and community development opportunities for Rohingya. He speaks regularly at international conferences organized by UNICEF, United Nations, civil society groups, and governments. And he testified before the House of Commons, the Human Rights Committee at the House of Commons on the Rohingya crisis. He's a journalism graduate and currently a master's student in peace and conflict studies at the University of Waterloo. So thank you so much, Saiful, for being here.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, thanks. So Saiful, can you tell us a bit more about what life is like for Rohingya people who are still living in Myanmar, and more about your own story of survival?
Before I continue, I would like to thank you for having me. Honestly, this kind of support gives us hope and strength to stand tall. This means a great deal for me personally. Your shared concern and your support help renew and refuel to resolve, to remake a future that was taken from so many of us. Our families, our loved ones, especially the Rohingya women, considering immeasurable hardship endured by them and children, and mostly youth. I'm here to speak on behalf of an uncertain tomorrow for all of us, and to relay the words of those with a voice of their own, particularly today's topic, racism in sports. So about me personally, first of all, my name is Saifullah Muhammad. I was born stateless. I don't call myself stateless. We are rendered stateless. So my parents gave birth a refugee when I was born. Having said that, I would like to thank the organizer of this event, this programs, this wonderful initiative for bringing attention to this ongoing human rights crisis, a genocide in real time. I hope we can work together, we can bring change that our youth are deprived of and our people are deprived of for decades. Immediately after immediately after my birth, I began to live a life where I simply didn't exist. I was born in an isolated town called Ratedong in Burma, in Myanmar, in what was Arkhane State. Now it is called Rakhine State. I joined the 3 million fellow Rohingya people who were illegally erased from the fabric of our country, a process that has been accelerated since 1982. In one of the earlier wave of the genocide, my family and I fled to Bangladesh. We sought refuge in neighboring country, as I mentioned, in Bangladesh. Along with the respite, we found crushing poverty and insecurity to greet us once we got there in Bangladesh refugee camps. Presently, there are over 1 million Rohingya in such refugee camps. Although ever evolving the martial states in the current form, the Republic of Union of Myanmar, we call it Burma, officially recognized 135 distinct ethnic groups in 8 major national ethnic races. The military-led government, with the civilian institutional collaborations, has opted to exclude the Rohingya from ethnic groups. If Rohingya were included, it would be 136, but they were not. Once upon a time, it's not long ago, the South African Archbishop Desmond Tutu called the Burmese appetite But I am here before you today to say it loud and clear that we belong to the same soil as other 54 million people that call the country home. We were all to the same soil as the other people lived, share the same rice, same water, and same fisheries together. It is noteworthy that my country's penchant for decades-long isolationist regimes, we call it the Burmese military regime, continually make this state no different from other Asian area that we all know too well. It is unfortunate that Myanmar too can be called other hermit kingdoms. So many of my fellow countrymen from various ethno-religious groups have suffered different kind of violence, state-sanctioned violence, and state-sponsored terror. However, it is the Rohingya people that have been selected for enhanced reparations for the point of meeting the legal and criminal definition of genocide, uh, as held by the international community worldwide. The pattern of the human rights violation in Myanmar suggests policy and designs not an accident. It is not an accident. It is the failure of the oversight. So as I am talking here today, I am well aware of my life missions. It is a missions out of the necessity, out of depressions. My fellow Rohingya have been robbed of their potentials, a place to call home, a modern chance for a happy life. I am here in Canada having prestigious life, studying in a well-known university, but I am shamefully indebted to them. So mm, there's a lot of persecutions going on without hope, without a certain futures. So we need to work a lot for that.
Yeah, thank you so much. And for being so open. So you mentioned before that you had grown up in Bangladesh. Is that right?
Yes. I was grown up in Bangladesh when I was very young, and I had to leave my country for Bangladesh as a refugee, and I was brought up in the refugee camp. I studied there, and in the refugee camps later on I had to go out of the camps and study there, and it was so hard for the refugee to go out and come in again, and I had to stay for a long time. In my I was a kid, I was crying all the day, or sometimes. But if I want to if I wanted to see my parents, I had to sneak back to the refugee camps. So it was hard for me in the refugee life. It is unbearable and untouchable, so unexpressible.
Yeah. Was it ever possible for Rohingya people to play sports in Myanmar? And if so, what was expected of Rohingya to be able to participate?
In the sports,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in the earlier times when we were so young, and then we sometimes before we were born, so we heard, and we also saw that when we were so young. So the Rohingya athletes were taking part in different sports, state level, country level. Later on, the systematic discrimination designs to push all the Rohingya back, or to driven out the Rohingya out of the country. That policy came out and kicked all the Rohingya athletes out of the national state level sports. The Rohingya people, honestly, they mingle and coexisted with the other ethnic groups for centuries. They didn't have any problems. They didn't have anything. This only changed the recent memory. Like so many instances, or orchestrated mass killings, the genocide of my people is based on rewriting shared ancestries, rewriting their history, or creating new nation might. and popular narrative that deny our roots. The hatred spread like a virus. So step by step, it come close, and the people who were just fighting so for their survivals, they were unable to participate in any athlete, and they were not allowed as well.
Mm-hmm. So this was the 1982 citizenship law, you said, that changed things in sport for Rohingya?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's definitely one of the classic warning signs of impending genocide, isn't it? When federal classification policies start to divide people between us and them, and then ultimately stripping certain groups of their citizenship. So when this shift happened, in what ways did sport, do you see, serve as a mechanism for social exclusion and stigmatization?
You mean 1982 citizenship?
Yeah, or just in general, I would say. In what ways was sport sort of a means or a mechanism or a route that Rohingya people would be excluded?
Yeah, actually, it is really the Rohingya peoples. The persecution started in 1942. In 1951, the Rohingya were not that much recognized, and then but the Rohingya were stable in the country. And then since 1982, I definitely say the Myanmar's 1982 citizenship law violated the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which rests on the principle of non-discriminations and provides that everyone has right to nationality. Under this law, full citizenship is primarily based on a membership that national races who are considered by the state, state of Burma. So who were settled before 1842, they were the citizens. That means the Rohingya were excluded by saying that the Rohingya came during the British occupations, which is not true. Despite the generation of residents in Myanmar, the Rohingya were not considered to be among these official indigenous races or ethnic groups, thus effectively excluded from full citizenships. Since then, Rohingya were rendered stateless. I personally don't call Rohingya stateless, as I mentioned. This principle for the citizenship is based on deeply flawed and outdated knowledge about the race and ethnic identity formations. There were prevalent during the colonial period in Myanmar. The 1982 citizenship law is discriminatory on the ground of race, since access to citizenship is primarily based on the race and excluded certain races and ethnic groups. Most notably, Rohingya lost their identity. Since then, Rohingyas um, hardships, excludings, and ethnic cleansings started since 1982.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you had mentioned previously about how in order for you to get an education, even in Bangladesh, that you had to deny your ethnic identity. And so I'm wondering if before the 1982 citizenship law in Myanmar, whether this was also the case for any athletes who wanted to play sports.
Actually, I am not sure about since I heard since 1962 the persecution has started, but you know when the persecution starts in some places, it doesn't come like storms or like a war. It has started slowly, and we call, or everyone's international community call, the Rohingya genocide is a slow burning genocide. That means it has started step by steps, one by one, so one step to another step. So first of all, the Rohingya people we are excluded from the from the government jobs, from taking part in different kind of participations, doing business, going one village to another village, practicing religious things, and so many things, one by one, they restricted on the Rohingya peoples. Later on, they were not allowed to participate in any kind of sports, even state levels, and even they were not allowed to play in their own playgrounds. So, and later on in 1982, they were the citizenship has been taken and declared them stateless and foreigner in their own country. So that's the things I can say. The Rohingya were being discriminated from since 1962. Yes, if I answer your questions, yes, the discriminations was there, but it was very slow. After 1982, it was like an official persecutions, official, yeah.
I mean, I think for a lot of people, at least for us in our in North America and our news media, really it wasn't until 2017 that information actually hit us about what was going on for Rohingya. And then it was just, you know, incredible to see the number of people that were being displaced and the atrocities that were happening. But like you say, it was a slow burning thing that, you know, one of those, many of those classic steps to genocide happened in this case. So I understand that at some point you started living in Malaysia. And while you were there, you started well, for us North Americans, that'd be a soccer team or a soccer club, but football club. What was your motivation for doing this? Why was it important to you?
Actually, I personally lived my entire life as a refugee. So when I came to Malaysia, I endured a lot of hardships. I worked in different with different peoples in different sectors. So being the most persecuted and persecuted peoples, and then the victim of genocide, the Rohingya are the most deprived and underprivileged people. For some of us, in brief, if I describe the Rohingya football clubs, how we started, it is long. But some of us, only 4 of us, has started the initiative to give a try in a new look. Rohingya Football Club, we call it Rohingya FC, was a novel initiative for us, using the magic of football to give a voice to the voiceless and to bring the Rohingya youth together to a common goal, creating opportunities to uplift and empower Rohingya youth. And I thought that RFC was an independent club started in Kuala Lumpur for the first time in Malaysia on January 2015. Since then, it expanded in our network in more than 7 countries with the patience to connect people and to play a refugee World Cup one day. So this club is this club was and now is a message of hope and harmony to the rest of the world. So Rohingya Football Club was more than just a football club. It is a hope for the young generations, seeding inspirations and patience. Most importantly, bringing awareness to the plight of Rohingya genocide.
So that's amazing. How wonderful that you started that. So when you first started this, what kind of challenges did you face?
This unexpressibles. Nobody thought that it would be what we are today now. Our main objective was to bring awareness and to produce quality players all over Malaysia and other parts of the world, as we can build a capacity of the Rohingya youth, improving a skill in diverse area, including coaching team member, developing a skill of fair play, tolerance, inclusions, and understanding of oneself, teammate and opponent alike. We face a lot of challenges in terms of bringing the players out to play, securing a place or a field for our training, buying kits, and playing at tournaments, it was so hard for us. Many individuals and organizations give their value times, provided inputs, contributed the compliance, and undertook the important tasks of building the team. I would like to thank all of those who have those kind of things and still helping, supporting, and contributing. So we face a lot of challenges in terms of in terms of playing one place to another place, because we were refugee, we are undocumented. Some of the players are undocumented, and being undocumented, going one place to another place is scary. If you're arrested, you will be straight sent to jail. So you have no status. If you are not allowed even to work, how can you play soccer or any sports in the country? So it was a bit challenging. It's a big challenge we faced for the first times, and the community didn't know that what we are going to do, and most of the people criticize, saying that the Rohingya people are dying in Burma, and then they were dying in the oceans, trying to come to Malaysia and other countries to save their lives. You guys are doing fun. You guys are playing soccer here. What you guys mean to do? So many criticisms, but we didn't pay attention on it, because sport is a part of building community, building bridge, creating networks. That's we understood. So we didn't pay that much attention to the criticism. Yes, we faced a lot of challenge.
Mhm. What kind of constraints? You mentioned that it was difficult to get players out and that there was a sense of fear because of this traveling and the restrictions. But were there any other kinds of burdens that players were facing that were kind of prevented them from being able to participate right away or feeling like they could participate?
Yes, the burden of contributing or supporting their families, because most of the Rohingya young people, they are with a family in Malaysia. They don't have any family. Their family are looking at them from Burma. In Burma, they don't have any jobs. They don't have anything to even to survive. So these people in Malaysia, they always work, and from morning to evenings they work, and evening time they come out to play. And sometimes if they feel stressed, they feel um, so many tensions in their heads because they need to support their family. It was one of the bigger challenge for them to come out, and they were feeling a different kind of trauma, stress, and yeah, it was a barriers for them as well. And as I mentioned, another one thing is the documentations to come out like other people that, who do have permit to stay there. So so many kind of barriers as a refugee. I hope you understand. Being a refugee is so hard and painful.
And thank you so much for coming here and sharing your story. And I know that was and is painful, and that you still have family in Bangladesh, and that must be difficult too. So with the club, finally you got the players interested, they were able to come out. What kind of changes did you see in the players once they joined?
Honestly, no one had the idea we'll come this far today. So the football team has shown the way as a innovative means of building trust between them. I mean the players, different local teams, and all over the Malaysia. It increased mutual understanding and raised empathy levels and restored the element of normalcy to the people's life. The player and supporters understood their potential and their values. Thousands of the youth who are deprived of their rights, just they need an opportunity now. So that's why we have been trying to work on it, to give them some sort of some sort of hopes in different country. Not only me, there's a lot of people like me. We have a group. We can say we have a strong network to create a national Rohingya national football team.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit more about what's happened since starting that club and the international team that you've been invited to develop now?
Which one? The Conifa one?
Yeah. And you also have other exciting news that you could share with us too, I think.
Yeah. It is hard to explain how much we struggled when we started the club. When we started to give a hopes to bring together the youths, it was so hard. Later on, after a long time, the Rohingya Football Club experience concluded successfully. And with the adoption of the original programs, the club receives a lot of media attentions, which led to the story being told across the world in at least 4 different languages. So the Rohingya FC played a number of games under our supervisions with the fellow Rohingya and with the local non-Rohingya people, I mean Malaysian teams, including government institutions such as the local police, and this clearly aided the community cohesion and networking. So the Rohingya FC earned many awards and featured on the international media outlets such as Al Jazeera, BBC, and Reuters. Rohingya FC have been recognized as one of the UN Sustainable Development Goal partner and supported by Australian government, awarded with jersey by Australian High Commission in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Uh, Further, the Rohingya FC achieved a membership status with the Confederation of Independent Football Associations, we call it CONIFA, which hold a periodic World Cup for stateless nations every 2 years. So within the Rohingya community itself, social media and anecdote evidence suggests that the club has become, the Rohingya FC has become a well-known focal points for the Rohingya, yes. Dubbed by many Rohingya, the Rohingya national team, and a symbol of ethnic pride in Malaysia, in diaspora, as well as inside Myanmar. So we have a management teams, and in different country we have different Rohingya football clubs. What we try to do is we always try to communicate who is playing good, who is playing in which positions. And one day, if you are we are invited by the CONIFA World Cups in 2020, 2019, and 2018. We couldn't go because we are not we were not stable. Most of the most of the players in the refugee are refugee. They don't have any travel documents, and we didn't have any fundings, so we were unable to go there. But still, we are one of the active member of CONIFA. And next times, wherever the pandemic shut down everything, so if next time we are invited anywhere, we are trying to go. We are planning to have national teams among us, taking some from Canada, from America, from other countries. So we have some very good player in Australia. We have some very good player in India, Ireland, UK, in Malaysia, and Canada. So we already made a team, and we are trying to raise funds and to participate the CONIFA World Cup. Just going there is not win and lose, just bringing awareness and giving just letting the people know the Rohingya people are not stateless, not refugee, not they are not useless people. They do have potentials. They do have talents to show, just to show the world and to bring awareness is our main goal.
That's amazing. I mean, I think any professional athlete has to overcome major hurdles to get to where they are and put so much effort in. And then when you see what's happening with the Rohingya team, how many extra hurdles that have had to be overcome is quite incredible. And like you said, the Rohingya have been rendered stateless, but it's something quite special and progressive, isn't it? That, usually sports teams at that level, they're attached to a state. And so to have an international Rohingya team is absolutely incredible. What an amazing journey it must have been to get there.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have other exciting news about Canada and a team. You're developing a team or something. Is that right?
Yeah, in every country we do have a team, not every country, but most of the country, in Ireland, in Australia, in US and Canada, we do have teams. We have been trying to develop our players, as I mentioned earlier. We have been trying to develop our players. Who knows, one day one of them play and represent the country, and it will be he will be or she will be said, she will be called, she's a Rohingya from Burma. That will give a huge impact on the Rohingya crisis. So that's why we have been trying. And recently in Canada, we have a Rohingya Football Club of Canada. So we are offered and promoted to participate in one of the Premier Division League. It's called KDSL, Kitchener District League, one of the highest level league. So next month we are starting the programs, and we are starting the tournament. So we'll be posting. You will see that.
That's amazing. Are there any Rohingya women's soccer teams or football teams?
In Canada or any other place?
In general, around the world? Women playing?
When we started Rohingya FC in Malaysia, our intention was to incorporate women and girls equally into the broad Rohingya FC. This was blocked to some extent by the politics of gender in the traditional social structure. Our strategy to give the men a team first and then to introduce a women's sports sections that was designed to head off some of the gender dynamic we were led to expect. We are not yet there, but we are trying, and we are also encouraging and empowering some Rohingya women to come out and take the lead, and we will be supporting them, and we are under process.
That's great. That's great. What aspects of sport do you think make it a strong medium from which to conduct anti-racism work?
Anti-racism?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I didn't get what you said.
Is there anything about sport? You mentioned a few things earlier, but to go back over them, what is it about sport that makes it a good medium to connect people or conduct anti-racism work?
I feel that racism is a problem that needs to be addressed well and find a solution. Unfortunately, our peoples, the Rohingya peoples, didn't have a voice to fight for their right in Burma. For everyone, the solution for facing this issue are complex, and multidimensional, but it must begin with establishing a zero tolerance policy for racism, making this publicly known by sharing posters in the facility or sharing documents where diversity is encouraged. Racism is not only in one country, it is everywhere. Racism is like unavoidable. And integrating in the concept into the code of conduct for the leaders, coaches, athletes, and parents, particularly the government should be well aware of supportive and support the initiatives. So I think these people, as I mentioned, are the main mediums to to stop racism or to reduce the racism.
Do you feel that sport could play a role in reconciliation?
Yes, of course. I believe that because it brings mutual harmony and building trust among each others, and it create networks. And a sport is the only things in the world which doesn't have any kind of any kind of fighting, conflict, or big conflict. So I believe that it brings two community together, two country together, two enemies together. Yes, I believe that.
Great. So I know you work a lot now with youth and empowering youth. Are you using sports at all to engage and educate youth in your work?
Yes. You know, for us, yeah, we do that.
In Canada, or are you doing that in other countries as well?
You know, if I mention a little bit more, many government-led aid programs, you know, have the title towards uh, or support toward the sport in recent years, but this has often been via elite athletes and high-profile sporting events rather than at grassroots levels. Where would I argue it is likely to have the most impact? We would hope that what we try to do is our story can help give a role of the grassroots sports in general and give it the identity through the sports. So that's why we have been trying in different countries as much as we can. But you know, we do have different issues, and our people have been facing a genocide, and sport is a medium just to bring all the youth together and to let a message of other things to know them, to let them know through their sports. But even though we have been facing a genocide, we have been going through a lot of hardships, a lot of problems, but we still love sports, and our young peoples never give up. They are still involved in different kind of sport, and we are trying. We are using these sports as a sort of education. Yes.
Yeah, that's incredible. So you've built with your Rohingya colleagues in Canada an incredible organization called the Canadian Rohingya Development Initiative. Can you tell us a bit more about the organization, the kind of work that you do, what your mission is, or your vision?
Actually, you have mentioned a little bit at the beginning. The Canadian Rohingya Development Initiative is an initiative started in 2017, at the beginning of 2017. Is a registered non-profit organizations established by the Rohingya people in Canada and with the support of some non-Rohingya people to fulfill the growing needs of the community organizations Rohingya refugees and diaspora can rely on. Um, we work with the various individuals and leaders from different communities, humanitarian sectors, and the governments to develop the Rohingya community in Canada and abroad, particularly in the refugee camps. Our focus is the refugee camps and Malaysia, India, Indonesia, and so on. So, and particularly we have a site, we have an interest in Burma because most of the peoples who are still living in Burma, they don't have any voice, they are voiceless. So more than 120,000 people are now in IDP camps. They're struggling even for their daily survival. So see, we promote educations, not the education is not a primary educations. We are targeting higher educations. We have thousands of Rohingya students who are supposed to be at the university and college. And we also support and partially involved in humanitarian aid alongside durable solutions for the Rohingya crisis. CRDI, I mean, our organization is also involved in settlement services. Mostly we need to help the newcomers, awareness building campaigns, and sustainable youth projects in Canada and refugee camps in Bangladesh. So we also had the privilege of being involved in all the government initiatives of the Rohingya people and other persecuted ethnic minorities. Also engage and partner with different organizations to build a sustainable community, providing customized service to the newcomers, such as interpretations and just settlement works. We have also, as you mentioned, we have testified in the Human Rights Committee at the House of Commons in Senate Canada, attended public gatherings even at the university in different countries, and not in Canada only, United Nations, the UNICEF Canada, the Parliament of World Religious Conventions, in Dubai, UK, US, and various charity community, even all over Canada. We regularly highlight the Rohingya issue in our national TV and international media, write op-eds, write reports. We help the humanitarian community, and we also help the researchers to do good research and being mediums for them. We organize many different events, conference, webinar, academic seminar to bring greater awareness in Canada so far.
Yeah, your organization is doing amazing work, and I'm very, very proud to be your colleague, to be working with you on some projects. Yeah, it's quite an honor. I think we have about 10 minutes left, so maybe I'll stop here for a minute. If there's anything else you'd like to add before we move into questions.
No, I'm just expecting.
Okay, so if it's okay, we could open up now for a few minutes for questions from attendees, and then conclude. Does anyone have a question? Nobody's answering.
Hi. May I ask a question right now? Is that
yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you for your great conversation. I'm always feel very inspired and excited when I hear about these stories from all over the world. And thank you, Nora, for your moderation, and to Saiful for his empowered words about the role of sport and about their feelings about for life. Actually, I just wanted to share a couple of words that I read about Rohingya team, football team at press, and it was saying that right now with this football team, for the first time, we will be heard with happy news instead of the sad ones. And I really found that words very strong and very important, because for me and for many people I know, sport also is about feelings, and about instead of being victims, you can present yourself as empowered people, having fun and being together, playing, and And what do you think about the feelings, Saiful, of people who are in these football teams, about themselves? What did you observe in that framework? Thank you again.
Yeah. Oh yes. The feelings. When you play something, so you are involved in a sports. The feeling is like you forget everything. So you will give your 100% on that things. And everyone knows in the world, anyhow, in any way, everyone is involved in sports in their life. So the thing is, feelings in the sports, I do recognize, or I do feel so what the other things in our teams, in our community. But for me, as I'm also involved in that part, I feel like the feeling is like we can do something. For me, some people think that sport give us strength, health, good health, and then we can do a lot of things. But for us, totally different. In our team, it is totally different. We do feel that with these football teams, with these sports, we can be recognized as a Rohingya, as an ethnic groups, as a people, not as an aliens, like the Burmese government say to us. So the people of the world may give us a recognitions. So the feeling is always inside us, and through the sports we can bring, as I mentioned before, we can bring awareness. That's the feeling we have all the times. And in Malaysia, as I briefly mentioned, before 5-6 years, the Rohingya people were unknown to the peoples. In Malaysia, most of the people knew that the Rohingya people were a victim of genocide. One thing, and second thing was the soccer, the football team, because in every part of Malaysia we have a Rohingya football teams. When we started, we didn't have 11 players, but when we after a few months, when we got the media attentions, and from every corner of the Malaysia, people calling us saying that I want to play for your team, and then we told them we cannot afford more than 24 players in a team. Just create a team in your place, will support you. And we did, and they played with their local teams, and it was a huge impact for us. So that's the feeling we have, to bring awareness, to give recognitions.
That was a great question. That was a great question. And it made me think back to, originally when we talked about the changes that you saw in the players. Do you think it changed how they saw themselves once they started, or how they felt about themselves?
Yeah, for the first time, when we started, the Rohingya players, they didn't know that we're there and what their potential are or is. And then later on, when they play, we were playing with the local teams, the local people, even the Malaysian team inviting the players who play really good. And then they were doing a job which is really hard for them, and they feel like, oh, I do have some potential in me, and I was invited in a local teams. And if we see when they resettled to US and Malaysia and Canada and other countries, they said, oh, I did have some potentials, can I try it here? And then we see now some of the Rohingya players, some of the Rohingya players in Canada, in US, and in Australia, they have been playing for the local teams, even a Premier Divisions and other professional teams. That a huge impact we had. So they understood that was a huge impact through the sports.
Amazing. Do we have time, Neil, for one more question? I think so. We have 5 minutes.
I will interject here.
Okay.
This is cheating, because Neil had to leave her computer because there was a very minor earthquake in Istanbul just as we were speaking.
Gosh.
Yeah, and she had to leave the building, but it's okay, and I am taking over the moderation if it's okay for you.
Are you okay?
Yeah,
you're also in
okay.
Istanbul, right?
I am also in Istanbul, but we also felt it. It was short, but Neil is closer to the center of it, and she had to leave the building. So I am, she's.
You'll be the one doing the closing.
I'll be the one doing the closing. I mean, we still have another 5 minutes if there are other people who want to jump in and ask questions.
Great.
Otherwise, maybe I can invite you both to make some closing remarks before we close. Shall we do that?
Yeah, should we open up for one more question and then we can close? Does that sound okay? I don't know if anyone else has another question.
Let me see if there is anyone else who'd like to ask.
I don't know if this kicks us off in 4 minutes or we can be 1 to 2 minutes over.
That might be. Well, I believe if there was a question, they would have jumped in. So and since we have such a little time left, maybe it's better to take your closing remarks, and I'm just going to tell just a tiny bit for closing. So yeah, if you can make your closing remarks, that will be great.
Yeah. I just want to say, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Saiful for being here and being brave and leaving us with such important words, and for your tireless work to bring awareness to this situation and what's happening with Rohingya. And I want to thank the organizers for this series on anti-racism in sports and for creating a platform that enabled us to be here and to help spread that awareness and show that light and that hope and the resilience that can happen through sport. So thank you very much. And Saiful, did you have anything to conclude?
Same here. I would like to thank to these wonderful organizers and you too for having me here. And before I came here, before I come to talk about the Rohingya FC and the Rohingya situation, I discussed with some of my friends who have been closely working for the development of the Rohingya football club and sports. I would like to thank them. They give me a lot of advice, a lot of ideas, and our friends who started the Rohingya FC with me, Mohammed Nora, and some others who supported us and still supporting from Ireland, Australia, US, and other countries. I would like to thank them because without them, so we couldn't make it. So, and we also would like to thank all the people who will be watching these programs. Please support us and support those who need your support, and work against racism. And racism is not welcome at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much. I also wanted to thank both of you for such a wonderful conversation and such an inspiring conversation, and it informed us all to learn about your story, Saifullah, and the really empowering, really inspiring story of the Rohingya football team. And I do hope that a lot of other people all around the world will be inspired by this story, will be informed about the situation, and we are for sure going to continue following what you'll be doing and the ongoing struggle for recognition and for freedom and for a decent life and peace, basically. Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone, all the participants here. We have a lot of people in the Zoom chat, and also people are watching from the YouTube. Usually a lot more people tend to watch these on recording. So, on behalf of Bomovu, Oseminars, and Alan Savunması, I want to thank everyone for joining in and for tuning in. Also would like to thank Fairnet for supporting us, because this is a Black Lives Matter Fairnet football activity. Finally, I also want to let everyone know that this is an ongoing series. This is a series that's going to take place for 12 weeks, and every Thursday around this time, usually at 4 p.m., but sometimes 5 or 3, we have a conversation. And next week we are hosting CONIFA, and the following week we are hosting Ahmet Spor. And we have several other lined up on our program. So please visit Bomovu website and channels, Oseminars and Alan Savunması website and channels to see the program, to register and join us for the following weeks. Thank you again, and see you next week.